Hey, welcome to Strength Foundation. If you're gearing up for your NSCA CPT exam, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we are tearing down Chapter 16, Aerobic Training Program Design. We're going to cover everything you absolutely need to know, not just to pass your exam, but to be a killer coach. Okay, so here's our game plan for today. We're going to start with the core principles, the bedrock of everything. Then we'll get into the nitty-gritty of exercise intensity, which is huge. After that, we'll talk frequency and duration, the art of progressing your clients safely, and we'll wrap up with the different types of aerobic training. All right, let's kick things off with the core principles. Before you can even dream of building a killer program, you've got to understand the fundamental rules. This is the why behind everything we do, and it's what makes sure the plan you write actually gets the results your client is paying you for. And that brings us to the first big one, the principle of specificity. You might also hear this called the SAID principle, specific adaptations to impose demands. It really just boils down to this. Your body gets good at exactly what you ask it to do. If your client wants to be a better runner, they've got to run. Want to be a better swimmer? You got to get in the pool. It's that simple. Specific goals require specific training. Now, to make all this real, let's meet our two case studies for today. On the left, we've got Becky. She's an intermediate runner, and her big goal is to crush a 10K. And on the right, this is Floyd. He's a total beginner, and he's looking to lose about 30 pounds. As you can already tell, their goals and where they're starting from are completely different, which means their programs are going to look completely different too. Let's move on to what I think is the single most critical variable in any training program, intensity. This whole section is about answering one question. How hard should my client actually be working? And trust me, the answer to that question pretty much dictates everything else. And here's a huge nugget for your exam. Intensity is king. It determines almost everything else. Think about it. If you have a super high-intensity workout, it can't last very long, right? And you're going to need more time to recover from it. So that one variable directly impacts both the duration and the frequency of training. Get the intensity right, and the rest of the puzzle just falls into place. So how do we actually measure intensity? Well, heart rate is a fantastic tool. The most basic way is the age-predicted max heart rate formula. It's quick, but it's just an estimate. A much better, much more accurate way is the Karvonen method. Why is it better? Because it takes the client's own resting heart rate into account, making it way more personalized and precise. Okay, lean in for this one because this is a massive study tip. The NSCA loves to put Karvonen formula questions on the exam. You need to memorize these 4 steps, period. Find the max heart rate, subtract resting heart rate to get the reserve, multiply by your percentages, and don't forget this last part, add the resting heart rate back in. Get this down and you're banking easy points. But what happens if you can't use a heart rate monitor? Maybe your client's on medication that affects it. No problem. You use the rating of perceived exertion, or RPE scale. This is basically just having a conversation. You're asking your client, hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, how hard does this feel? It's a subjective tool, but man, is it a powerful one. Our third tool for measuring intensity is metabolic equivalence, or METs. Here's the easiest way to think about it. 1 MET is the amount of energy your body uses just sitting still doing nothing. So if an activity is listed as 4 METs, it means it takes 4 times as much energy as resting. It gives us a really objective, scientific way to compare different activities. And as a personal trainer, charts like this are going to be your best friend. Let's say you've calculated that your client needs to work at an intensity of about 7 METs. Well, you can just look at a chart like this and say, aha, a 12-minute per mile run is the perfect intensity for you. It lets you turn a number into a real practical workout prescription. Okay, so we have totally nailed down intensity. Awesome. Now we can tackle the next 2 big questions. Frequency, how often should they train, and duration, how long should those sessions be? And remember, these are both heavily influenced by that intensity level we just set. You'll definitely want to be familiar with the general recommendations from the American College of Sports Medicine, or ACSM. The big takeaway here is that you're aiming for a total weekly volume of activity. And notice that trade-off, right? If you ramp up the intensity to vigorous, you can get the job done in about half the total time. That's a really key concept to understand. And this is where we bring it back to our clients. For Floyd, our beginner, we're not going to throw him into 5 sessions a week. That's a recipe for disaster. We'd start him off with 2, maybe 3 sessions a week to let his body recover and adapt. But Becky, our intermediate runner, her body can handle more, so her sweet spot is going to be somewhere in that 3 to 5 days a week range. All right, listen up. A program that never changes is a program that stops working. It's as simple as that. The human body is an incredible adaptation machine, which means we have to keep finding ways to challenge it. But, and this is a big but, we have to do it smartly and safely. Let's talk about the golden rule of progression. Progression is just the fancy term for making things a little bit harder over time. It's how we apply overload, and we can do that in a few ways. We can add another training day, we can bump up the intensity of the workouts, or we can make the sessions a little bit longer. And here it is, another massive study tip. Burn this number into your brain, 10%. What's the 10% rule? It's the general guideline that you should only increase one variable, frequency, intensity, or duration, by no more than 10% per week. This is your safety net. It ensures you're pushing the client just enough to adapt without pushing them over the edge into injury. Let's look at Becky's plan. This is a perfect example of that 10% rule in action in the real world. You can see how her running distance slowly and steadily climbs each week. It's not a huge jump. This slow, steady, and smart progression is exactly how we're going to get her to that 10K finish line feeling strong and healthy. All right, let's head into our final section. We've got all the building blocks now: intensity, frequency, duration, progression. Now let's see how we can put them all together to create different types of training programs. Think of these as the different tools you have in your coaching toolkit. First up is a classic, the granddaddy of them all, long, slow distance, or LSD training. This is your bread and butter for building a huge aerobic base. The whole idea is to work at a conversational pace, where you can actually hold a conversation without gasping for air. This type of training is amazing for building endurance. Next up, we have pace/tempo training. This is all about getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. You're basically training right at, or just a little bit above, that point where your muscles really start to burn. That's your lactate threshold. By training there, you teach your body to become more efficient, which means your client can hold a faster pace for a longer time. Then we've got interval training. This is where you really put the pedal to the metal. We're talking about short, intense, nearly all-out bursts of effort, followed by periods of rest. This is a crazy powerful way to boost your client's VO2 max and really push the ceiling of their aerobic fitness. And finally, let's talk about cross-training. This is simply mixing it up, incorporating different types of exercise. For our runner, Becky, this could be a day in the pool or a long bike ride. There are two huge benefits here. First, it helps prevent those nagging overuse injuries by stressing the body in different ways. And second, it keeps things fresh and fun, which is massive for keeping clients motivated long-term. All right, team, now it's your turn to be the coach. I want you to hit pause right here and actually work through this problem on your own. This is exactly the kind of question you're going to face on your NSCA exam. Walk through those 4 Karvonen steps we covered. Can you get the right answer? Mastering this stuff is a huge step toward crushing that test and becoming an amazing NSCA certified personal trainer. You've got this. Good luck.